to go. I think the stream should be up and going, I hope. That would be quite nice. Hello, hello, hello everyone. Leeds United have had their fixtures for next season finally released, which is quite interesting. I thought I'd take a little bit of a deep dive through them, have a little bit of a chat about who we get in what order and why that's good or bad or somewhere in the middle, and ultimately what that will all mean for the club. So, before we dive into everything, we all kind of assumed that it's quite hard to sign into the Athletic for some reason. No, we all kind of assumed that we would be playing away on the first and final days of the season. This makes sure that the club have the sort of entire off-season period plus 2 weeks to get construction work done, which is good. That'll be something that the club have actively requested of the Premier League, and rather than something that is a bad thing, let's view it as a good thing, because it is. That's true, Danny. We do, for now, have a Boxing Day game, but that will potentially get moved because of TV reasons. We only found that one out in the middle of last season. But let's have a quick go through them. Let's find the image of the fixtures. Open image, a new tab. Sorry, this is still the new-ish PC, which means that I've not tried many of these scenes out before. So if I go to monitor 2, wait! So, starting out against Nottingham Forest, that is a fine enough game of football for us. Nottingham Forest are not in the best of positions financially. We'll assume that they'll sell Morgan Gibbs-White over the summer because that would just make a lot of sense for them. Presumably a game that we can feasibly win whether we are home or away. That one, not a problem with. Followed by Brentford, which could be a tricky one, I don't know. And then you get into September, which is a little bit weird. So, rather than 2 international breaks, which would be, what has normally happened forever for all of time when it comes to club football. You got one September, one October, and then one November. No, not anymore. Instead of the September and October ones that squished one together to make the football calendar absolute hell for creators and watchers alike, because we've got nothing to talk about during the average international break. Imagine this one. Because you go from your 2 matches in August, Nottingham Forest and Brentford. Brighton, also away from home, that's fine. A couple of home games in a row. We got Newcastle, we got Palace, that's fine. And then you get the big international break. And then you get 3 weeks of nothing. Because they've decided to squish the September and the October breaks together. So in that case, people are like, well, okay, there's fewer international breaks. That's fine, there's fewer of them. However, the bastard's 3 weeks long. So it feels like the season would just be completely restarting over again, and any momentum that you had is gone. And we know that Daniel Farke's sides aren't the best after international breaks. Imagine what they're like away at Arsenal after a 3-week long one. And then it's immediately followed by a match against Man United at home. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult 2 matches, I think. I think being at home against Scum is definitely a benefit, but in general, that sort of run isn't brilliant coming off the back of an international break, followed by Sunderland, who I think will struggle quite badly this season because they also need to play in Europe in addition to in the Premier League. Then Bournemouth, who I think will sort of be alright. They've not got Iraola anymore, so we don't know how they'll land, but I think they'll basically be fine. Coming into November, which is, again, not too bad a run. If you have a look through the matches that we've actually got, there are no runs that actively scream this is going to be hellish. Like, Spurs into Chelsea, that's not going to be the kindest, because we don't know exactly how well De Zerbi will do with Spurs this season. I imagine he won't be too bad, but Spurs international break, Chelsea is... could be worse. Followed by Coventry, which is fine, but then City away, which isn't fine, but then Ipswich, which is completely fine because that's at home, then Liverpool away, which isn't fine. It's one of those which is all of your tough matches are sort of encompassed in matches that aren't so difficult, which is sort of alright to me. I don't hate that too badly. December is, for the rest of it, not too bad. You got Fulham at home, Villa and Hull away consecutively is, yeah. Villa away is more of a problem than Hull, because Hull is Hull. You can always get points against Hull. It's fine. They've not done any of their recruitment so far, but we'll see how that one goes. If they end up with Joffrey, then I don't mind it too much. And that brings us into 2027, which is a weird thing to say. It still feels like it's like 2022 or something, but that's fine. In which we immediately face Everton, which shouldn't be too much of an issue. Everton are, yeah. Then we get into what I think is the toughest 3-game run of our season. Then you get into Spurs, no, not Spurs, into City at home, which is, it is what it is. It's Man City. You're probably not going to win. Followed by Spurs after a sort of 10-day break. That's because somewhere in there you fit in an FA Cup match, presumably on, I think the 9th is a Saturday. So that's roughly where that will fall. Then you get Spurs away, which, again, that could be a tricky one. And then you get Chelsea at home, which again could be tricky because you never know quite how you're going to land against Chelsea. Couple of nice ones, Coventry, then Bournemouth. If that Bournemouth match gets moved to the Sunday, I might see if I can attend it because that Sunday, being the 7th, would be my birthday. And that'd be a quite nice little treat for myself. Everton, Villa, Fulham, that's fine. Again, none of these are horrible runs of games, to be honest. Hull and Brighton at home. Brighton might be a bit of a problem, but Hull are Hull. Then you get into the final stretch. You get into the run where if you're not safe, you're probably looking desperately for places to pick up points. And I think the final stretch isn't too bad. So, Newcastle away, then an international break. Following the international break, it's Forest at home, which should be fine. Brentford away, which it's London, but at the same time it's Brentford, so there's a somewhat middle ground to be found. Then Liverpool at home. That comes down to the version of Liverpool that managed to come out next season. Because Liverpool can be great, Liverpool can be terrible, and there are points to be picked up there without a doubt. Then an away trip to Ipswich. There's words there somewhere. Then an away trip to Ipswich. Thank you. Why was that harder to say than I thought that would be? I don't know. Then a couple of tricky ones. Arsenal at home, where it'll be quite hard to get anything out of that. Man United away. We could get something out of that one. I don't know. We'll see. Followed up quite swiftly by the 2 final games of the season, being Sunderland at home, which again should be basically fine. I think Sunderland will struggle quite a bit because they have significantly less cash to throw at this season. Well, it's less that and more. They've also got Europe, which means that their financial limits are smaller than ours, which again, I don't mind, that's fine. And then Palace away. And I think Palace away is another one of those games that will be basically alright with. There's no real sort of danger with playing Palace. Yeah, they might beat you, but if they beat you, it won't be too bad. And if it's too bad, then you can just pretend it didn't happen. So, that is the rough run of the 26-27 Leeds United fixtures. I'm going to have a very, very, very quick look at what various other journos are saying about it. Come on, The Athletic. There we go. Starts with Nottingham Forest, etc., etc., etc. There's the list. An opening day barometer of progress. That's a good way of putting it. The fact that if we manage to beat Forest, then we'll be doing pretty alright. That's not really a problem, is it? I don't mind that too much. And the baby's having a bit of a cry, so it's not going to be too long of a remaining stream. Brentford first visitors to Elland Road a week later. Again, I think that one's going to be a pretty good test because Brentford being, I think they got into Europe last season, but they're a side that have done a lot of kicking on since we were last in the Premier League and promoted. So it'll be a case of if we're able to get something against Brentford, that is another very, very promising sign. Palace away is the day after my birthday on the 30th of May. Ah, very nice. It could also move around because TV fixtures and all that kind of stuff. This is a scary way of putting it, actually. Brentford, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United and Sunderland, all top 9 fixtures last season, will face Leeds in the final 7 matches. But there is no guarantee that all of those sides will keep that form up. Man United, I think, under Carrick, are potentially going to struggle more than they think. I think they've had a very, very good squad last season, and Amorim was underperforming rather than Carrick overperforming. I think Carrick basically just did his thing, and there's a lot of ego in that dressing room, and the moment it falls apart, I think it falls apart hard. Sunderland, I think, again, I've discussed what their issues are going to be. It's going to be restricted by European football. I think there's potentially the issue of what we dealt with when we came up last time, of you need to cement, fun hiccup, You need to cement that position in the Premier League, and I don't know if they'll have the opportunity to do that with the restriction of funds. Brentford could be curious, I think. Maybe. Because I think Brentford is one of those that it swings either way, to be honest with you. Brentford away is especially part of the issue, because having been down in the rough area of Brentford, I'll be honest, there isn't really any form of community down there. The fact it's called the G-Tech Community Stadium is a joke to me, because I've worked at a studio that was like a 3-minute walk away and I couldn't tell I was anywhere near a football stadium. There is no sort of club vibe around there, which is an interesting issue for them to be dealing with. In terms of major dates for the season, which are also down in the Athletics article, go over and read it. It's great. Transfer window has already opened. It opened on Monday, and it will slam shut dramatically on Tuesday, the 1st of September at 11 p.m. I will probably do a live stream at that point. I don't know yet, though. The winter window is from the 1st of January to the 1st of February. Community Shield is between the 16th, is on the 16th of August. There we go. We enter the Carabao Cup in the second round. Everyone that got into Europe enters in the third round, which is nuts because there's 9 teams doing that. Like, honestly, it's sort of unbelievable how many teams there are. The FA Cup final is, I believe, on maybe like the 22nd of May. That is obviously an interesting date for us because we're going to be there, because we're going to improve from last season and we're going to win the bugger. We're probably not, but it's fine. FA Cup first round, not the first round, but the first round that we need to care about. The third round is between the 9th and 10th of January. We'll probably end up on the 10th because we'll get a match that is sort of TV friendly. And yeah, sort of exciting. I think having Liverpool, Arsenal and Scum as the last chunk of dangerous fixtures, they're 3 of the last 6, is going to be quite fun. Hopefully we've got everything wrapped up by then and we get to just sort of have them as entertaining finale matches more than anything, but we'll find out how we go. And yeah, I'm going to leave that there. It wasn't ever going to be an especially long stream, but I'm trying to get back into being good at streaming again. I know I'm not very good at keeping that little schedule, but that happens. There's a baby now. These things are the standard. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to leave that there. If you enjoyed the stream, pop a like in it. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet as well. That genuinely helps the channel quite a lot. And I'm trying to get to 8,000, slowly but surely. I've hit a little bit of one of those YouTube buffers where it's sort of like, nope, you don't pass from here. So I'm just trying to like scrape and claw my way through all that. Like and comment and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you all later. Toodaloo, me amigos. And now I've got to find the right ending screen. Is the ending screen right? I think the ending screen might be too big. Let's learn together. Oh, I fixed it. There we go. See you later.